Yeah. So on verse 10 and 11 in the Gutman Chumash, it reads as follows. On verse 24, it says, Vayera Lakim. Now this is, I don't think people pay too much attention to this. Let the earth bring forth Nefesh Hayol Mino Behema Boremet V'Chaysa Oretz Mino V'Yichen. Let the earth bring forth living animals, each according to their own species. Behema, animal, domesticated behemoths, Boremes, and crawling things. How does he translate that? Creeping things. Yes. Creeping things, exactly. Creepy crawlies, exactly. V'Chaysa Oretz. Anything in the forest, and it was so. Okay. Now here, everybody has you've probably heard about the old discussion about what came first, the chicken or the egg. You ever heard that question? Now, actually, it's a trick question, and as far as Jews are concerned, the argument doesn't even exist, because both the chicken and the egg were created at the same time, meaning actually it's really the chicken actually came first. Because we base on this verse because it says in black and white that the land literally, that the animals and all the living animals literally came out of the earth. They popped up out of the earth. Now, that obviously is pretty bizarre, but that's what it says, right? Look what it says. Let the earth produce living. I mean, when it says produce is not quite the right, in my personal impression, the right translation of the Hebrew word. The Hebrew word is totsei. Now, totsei means from the word yatzah, which means to go out. Right now, so here, what are we saying here? Totsei, the earth itself should literally produce. The earth should produce. I mean, okay, produce, you're right. Create out of itself. So the animals, it seems, the animal and the soul were somehow or other literally came out of the ground. And then there was that Faggy? What, she's also with Emily? Okay, anyway. Maybe I'm mistaken. And then they had whatever, then they had babies and puppies and eggs. Yeah? So the actually created came out of the ground. Body and soul. Fascinating. Now, on the same day, this is on, by the way, the 6th day of creation, right? I believe. Yeah, that was on, hold on. Yeah, because it says, then the next verse says, Hashem made all the animals, right? But it was coming from the ground, right? Then we have in verse 26, which interestingly enough, 26 isn't that amazing? Verse 26, that God said, let us make man. Now, interesting, what is the gematria? See, I was right. What is the gematria of Hashem's name is 26? And God was created in the image, man was created in the image of God. Yeah. So isn't this fascinating that in the 26th verse we speak about the creation of man being the in the image of God. Okay. Anyway, sorry, man being created in the image of God. Yes, in the 26th verse, which is the gematria of Hashem's name. I think that's quite what's the word? Sort of poetic, interesting there. Okay, so Shalom Aleichem, welcome back. It's the Australian, all the way from California, Australia. I thought I saw Faggy. I saw Faggy come out. I thought, who likes Faggy there? Okay, there you go. Welcome back. We're just talking about the creation of man versus the creation of animals, and we are noting. Yeah. But we are recapping. We're doing a little bit of a We're going to have one on Bereshit, one on Noach, one on Lechem Hashem. We'll give you a whole smattering of the first 4 Parshas. Okay, yeah. Yeah. What we've got. Yeah. Okay. So in verse 26 on page 10 and 11, we are discussing that man was. We just noted that man was the discussion about creation of man is in verse 26, which is Gematria Yud Kei Vav Kei, in the image of God. Hello, Shalom Aleichem. Hey, nice to see you.
It's been like months.
What it's been on? Yeah. What I want to point out to you is that whereas the animals were created literally with the body and the soul coming out of the earth, as we just discussed in verse 24, man is different. Man was created. Look what it says. Hold on a sec. Okay. No. Now, man. Okay, it doesn't actually mention it over here. It doesn't actually mention it so much here. He mentions it in the next chapter. But we know that man was created originally from dust and earth. And then it says, "Vayipach bi'apov nishmas chayim." Yes. Now that actually is in chapter 2. If you want to, if you look in chapter 2, we're on Bereshit at the moment.
Oh, right. Okay.
If you go to page 16 and 17, yes, verse 7. Vayitza Hashem Elokim es ha'odam ofa min ha'odama. Hashem created the man from ofer min ha'odam, from the land. It was made from. He was clay. He was that. He was right like a golem. A golem, like a golem. It was literally fashioned, a physical lump of nothing, of what's the word? Inanimate stuff. Then Hashem blew into man the neshama of life. So you understand now that in a way, the animals have a certain advantage over man in the sense that they are created with the neshama, and man is created separately as just a, if you like, an inanimate piece of earth or clay or whatever, and then boom, gets the life into it. So in other words, man starts off with that is actually, in a sense, he's on a lower level because his guf was created lifeless and inanimate, and only then was injected the neshama. Now, obviously, the whole point is because it says Vayipach bi'apov neshama, he blew into it. And Tanya explains how when you blow into something, you're blowing from your essence. So Hashem, so to speak, blew. Okay, but he put somehow the neshama. The neshama comes from Hashem's essence. So it's the highest of the high coming down to the lowest of the low. Do you understand? That is the greatness of man. I'm afraid I did actually put it on my. Yes, yeah, and I must say, although we have this breath and that the usual translations, and I'm always going on about this. What's the usual translation? No, Vayipach bi'apov usually is translated, and he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. Now, it's not breathing. Yes, because it's blowing. Because there is a big difference between breathing and blowing. Yeah, when you breathe, it's passive, isn't it? It's very passive, unless a person's very ill. God forbid, if you have to be helped to breathe, that's pretty bad, right? Because normally breathing is the body just takes care of it. You don't even think about it. It's called the I've forgotten the nerve. What's called the nervous system, autonomous nervous system, whatever it is. But blowing is a conscious thing, and you blow from very deep down. You see people, when you blow, somebody blowing a trumpet or blowing the shofar, you see their face going red, and you see them maybe schwitzing a bit. Then, it's a lot of energy. I can tell you because I blow the shofar. So you're blowing from very deep down. So that's the reason why Hashem says it's very deep down within Hashem. So the marriage of the highest level of life can elevate the lowest part of existence, which is the earth. The earth itself is the lowest part of this world, right? like it says, because you are dust, and el offer toshuv, right? We return to dust. So we come from the dust. But that is the lowest part of this world. I mean, paradoxically, of course, things die and they go into the earth, but the earth gives life, doesn't it? Trees, trees and plants and fruits, and even as we read here, even animals.
Yeah, but we're gonna come.
So yes, but you have seeds, for example. Seeds, they rot in the earth,
Right.
and then they grow.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing thing that the earth, in a sense, because the earth, in a sense, contains a very, very high level of godliness. It's a bit like the moon. What happens with the moon? The moon shines, but isn't that interesting? The moon doesn't have any light of its own. So what does it shine?
The sun.
It's shining the sun. It's the sunlight. It's like a mirror. It's like a very lousy mirror. You know what I mean? It's not a good mirror. A mirror, you would see the whole sun. I often wonder, because there's so many craters on the moon. Yes?
Yeah.
Millions of craters. And nobody knows why. I mean, the moon obviously was clobbered by millions of craters, some time ago. And I always think, I wonder if the moon was really, is a whole, what's the word? There's a certain measure of how smooth a surface is and how well it will reflect. So if it was very, very smooth, it would reflect much more.
Oh, wow.
And maybe that was the fact that the moon was made smaller in the sense of maybe light, and even who knows, maybe size. The fact is, if you can imagine the moon completely smooth, yes, then I dare say it will be a much more effective mirror, and there will be much greater light.
Yeah.
And these craters explain why there's less light. But anyway, so the mirror, the sun hits it and it reflects it. We see the sunlight. So the same thing with the earth. The earth doesn't have anything of itself, but in the sense the light of Hashem comes down to the lowest part and reflects, in a sense. So that's why the earth actually has a power to grow, but it's not from itself. It's from Hashem. Were you going to ask?
Oh, no, I was just wondering if craters up there with a little.
What do you mean?
Like in Israel,
No, the craters are on the surface. So if you go to the moon, there's a million. Yeah, but here there's only a few.
Yeah.
No, but the Earth.
What's the point of crater then?
Well, if a crater is a
hole.
A hole.
No, because
Yeah, a very large hole.
Israel, there's a big crater.
Yeah, but it's only
One hole.
but yes,
Yeah,
but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. But you have very large craters on the moon as well. You have some that are very small. There's like millions of them. Small, big, very big. Some, they take up thousands of miles. Well, not thousands, maybe hundreds of miles. Anyway, that's just a so this idea. And by the way, you mentioned. You said you made a sort of hint about Mashiach before. I'm not sure what did you say? We're coming back now. Here, the Rebbe says a very interesting thing. That even the tzaddikim, there's you might ask a question. Here's a question you might ask. But now, okay, it was very good with Adam. The Adam, he was created this way: earth, clay, dust, and then he had. All right, us. Everybody since that time, we're born like the animals. We come out with the neshama and the body. So is it really the same? The answer is yes, it is, but in a concealed way. The very fact that it happened with Adam, yes, means that, and we are Adam's descendants, right? So the same thing is true. It's just in a concealed way. We don't really see that because B'pnim is sometimes in this world, it's concealed. So we don't really see it. We don't get it, right? So, however, when Mashiach comes, after Mashiach, it's at the end, and that's the end, we're going to have to hear some Mesa, the resurrection of the dead. Now, that's a very interesting thing because the resurrection of the dead, the neshama is going to come back into a totally dead body, which is going to be similar to what it was originally with man, that he was first lifeless, and then Hashem. So that's why the Rebbe says, and it says in all the Svarim, that even great tzaddikim will experience that the body will go back to earth. Even for a short time. I mean, this might be a long time, right? Other people will be perhaps waiting longer. In other words, going dust to dust, because normally the righteous, they don't decompose normally. The tzaddikim, the tzaddikim, they say that the great true tzaddikim do not, or they decompose very little. Okay, and it's not like this. Everybody else sort of turns into skeletons or whatever. But it says that at the time of the Tchias HaMesim, even the tzaddikim, the earth will return to the earth, and then they will experience once again. This idea of the resurrection of the dead, and it would be resurrected from the remaining bone. You know that the loose bone, which nobody not exactly knows exactly where it is.
It's supposed to be the neck.
Somewhere they don't know. Yes, the neck bone. People say that. Does anybody know? I don't think it actually says anywhere what the loose bone is. But people, what did you want to say? Anne? Were you saying something? Yes, that is actually, yes, that is. So they will come back. So they will, because their body was so refined, more refined. Yeah. I'm not sure where you get that from. It doesn't say that people will live forever after people. It says when. Oh, whatever. I exactly. I don't. It says that a young person will die at 100. They'll say 100. No. But nar ben mei yomus. When a person is 100 and they die, they think, oh, how sad, he died so young.
Yeah.
That's what that's the way when Mashiach comes, that'll be it. Like, oh, tragedy, 100 years. Only 100 years. Right? So
will there be death when Mashiach comes?
Of course. No. Mashiach, look, there's 2 periods of the Mashiach. First, and there's 3 periods altogether. There's the first period of Mashiach when the Rambam says, and the Rebbe says it's quite, there's no difference between this world and the Messianic era, except for the subjugation of the nations. In other words, basically anti-Semitism. And the non-Jews trying to prevent the Jews and start up with the Jews and give them a hard time in the land of Israel and everything, right? So when Mashiach comes, the non-Jews will say, yeah, keep Eretz Yisrael, we'll give it to this. Jerusalem's yours, Temple Mount's yours, build a temple. Yeah, everything. No anti-Semitism, no, right? That is the difference, because that's a pretty big difference. But it's not a supernatural. It's not supernatural. Everything else will carry on as normal. Life will carry on as normal. Yes, that's what the first period. Well, if would you be aware that the Arabs are saying build the temple? Won't you be aware? I think that'll make the headlines.
But I'm saying it's not.
Yes, of course. They're all. Well, first of all, the Muslims acknowledge God. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Yeah,
2/3 of the world acknowledge God. We're talking about acknowledging the God of the Jews, and that the Jews are the chosen people, and the Jews have a mission to do. That they don't do yet, right? Or the Christians do to a degree, but they have sometimes different agendas. But the point is, everybody will acknowledge God and serve God, worship God, and realize the Jewish people have a mission to do, and will facilitate us and help us and assist us. And that will bring the world to an even greater perfection. After which time, there'll become a more supernatural thing in the world, where even nature will start to change, and fruits will become totally greater than normal, and people will start to live much longer, and things will start to be supernatural, right? But still, in all at that time, there still will be death. It's not. I'm sorry. I don't want to. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. I'm not sure where this comes from. The idea. I mean, it's nice. It's nice to think we won't die. But what I'm trying to say is there is actually an advantage to this whole idea of death, in the sense that once we have Tchias HaMesim, we're going to experience the same thing that the Mauritians. Do you understand? Now that must be something. Now I don't know what that feels like. Nobody knows what it feels like to be dead and then to be reincarnated, or not. We're not reincarnated.
No, I'm wondering.
Will there be reincarnation?
Because we're supposed to be.
Sure. Is there going to still be reincarnation? Well, people
No,
say,
you don't.
no, because people will still be being born to Mashiach. So presumably there will still be reincarnation going on in the sense that the souls are coming back.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's a problem. I mean, there's no reason why not. I don't see any reason why not. Okay. All right. So are we all clear on that? So that is a little bit just telling you, just trying to understand a little bit the difference between man and everybody. So she still hasn't managed to come on. I'm not really sure why. Never mind. Denise.
Oh.
You could ask if she wants to come on with a phone or something. Maybe she wants to call your phone. Okay, now let's talk on Parshas and Noach. Now, Noach, let's look at Noach. We're doing just one little selection on each one. There's so much to do. But we know the very first verse in Noach, Parsha, page 38, 39. Okay, these are the generations of Noach. Noach is tzaddik. Oivad tzaddik. Tomim, perfect. A perfect tzaddik. So he was in his generations. Esolakim Islam and Noach walked with Hashem. Now, of course, this word b'doirosov, in his generations, is a bit of a problem. It's a dodgy word. It shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be there because if you tell somebody you're perfect, is there anything else you need to add to it? There's nothing else to add.
Yeah.
Is it? Perfection is perfection.
Yeah.
You don't say, well, you're very perfect. Do you know what I'm saying? You're obnoxiously perfect. I mean, perfect is perfect. And Tamim means perfect. So the very fact that Doiro Sog in his generation, the rabbis picked up on that. And they said, wait a minute, that doesn't quite compute. They must be trying to tell us something. And here the rabbis pick up and they say, yes, you know why? There's actually two interpretations which are almost mutually exclusive. One says that there is something in his generation, that Noah was so good that even in his generation, who were a bunch of total nincompoops, as we all know, he was a great tzaddik. And how much more so if he would have been in the generation of Abraham, which was 10 generations later. Although, by the way, they met, right? The first 58 years, in fact, Noach, interesting, I think it's 58, Noach, his name is Noach, is that Noach, you can figure out they lived in the same generation. And so they met, and I'm sure they learned together, had a few Farbringans, you know. So
but I thought the opposite. Had he been in the generation of Avram, he would.
That is the second opinion.
Yeah.
The second opinion, which seems to have gotten more traction.
Yeah, obviously.
It's got more traction, although Rashi brings, and the Talmud has two opinions. That the second opinion is that he was perfect, good guy in his generation. But in another person, in Abraham's generation, no, he wouldn't have made the grade. He wouldn't have made the grade because Abraham was on a totally different level. But the point of the matter is he didn't have anybody else to learn from. So relative to Abraham's generation, he was perfect.
Yeah.
But had he lived in Abraham's generation, he would have been a bit lower down the scale, shall we say. That's the second opinion, right? So you kind of ask, well, what I mean, what are you telling us? Why is the Torah telling us? Why is the Torah telling us that there is a difference between the way we interpret how Noah is great? Is he is great but not so great, or he's really, really great? Okay, and here we come to a beautiful idea to share with you. Again, of course, based on Chassidus, elaborated by the Rebbe, a famous teaching from the Baal Shem Tov, that, you know, at the time of the flood, what did Hashem say to Noah? It starts to rain. The ark is built. What does he say? Boy el hateva, come into the ark. It's raining. You know, you might ask, well, what's he need to be told to, it's raining? You start, you know, say, whoops, here it comes. Here we go. Apparently, he needed to be told to come into the ark because he was a bit of he kind of didn't really believe it was going to happen. The whole world destroyed. Couldn't quite believe it. Couldn't get his head around it. Yeah. So he had to be told. In you go. It's happening. All right. Anyway, the Baal Shem Tov says like this: Vayera Teva, come into the ark. Now, the word Teva means ark, but it also in Hebrew, no, you're getting mixed up with Teva. Don't get mixed up with Teva. Teva is spelled Tet Bet Ayin. Now that means nature, but the word Teva, Tof, Beit Hey, is what? No, Mrs. Huffman, come on, you know. Go on.
It rings a bell.
It rings a bell. Ding, ding, ding. Word. Teva means a word. So the Baal Shem Tov says, come into the words of davening and Torah. When the world threatens you, your own personal world threatens you with water that threatens to engulf you and overwhelm you with problems and worries about how to survive, how to pay the bills, how to get on in life, how to get through life. We've all got challenges and difficulties and problems, and thank you for that. And we're all, you know. So the Baal Shem Tov says the way to escape that and to survive that is to come into the words of davening and learning. When a person devotes time to study and devotes time to davening, that is the antidote to the mubble blues, shall we say, the flood blues. Okay, that's why we're here today. Exactly. Now, here's where this is all about Shem Tov. Now, how does it relate to this thing, B'dorasov? So let's see. There are actually two kinds of people really in the world. There are those people, most of us really think, and we know that we're kind of decent people. We may not think we're tzaddikim, or we may think we're tzaddikim, but we're kind of basically, right? Most people think we're decent people. We're not on the level. We're not on the level of the people of the flood. They were very naughty boys and girls, right? Everybody agrees they were all very naughty boys and girls. So at least, but a person may think that he's not a tzaddik. And a person may think, look, this idea that Baal Shem Tov is talking about, you know, it's nice, you know, but not really. I'm not really on quite that level. I'm a good chap. I'm a decent chap, but I'm not, you know, davening, learning, davening. That's not really me. I'm not really up to that. You know what I mean? So here comes the Torah and says, you know what? Nagach, according to one opinion, he also wasn't such the greatest tzaddik on planet Earth. So if he was told to go into the ark, you can also. You can be like Noah. You know, he's not the greatest, right?
Did he pray for his people?
No, he didn't. That was part of the problem. Right. He didn't. But that's a different sermon. You're right. That's why it's called the flood of Noah, not the flood of God.
Yeah.
I mean, God kind of sent it, but Noah could have davened. Yeah. And sometimes we think, sometimes we think, you know, who are we? Who am I? My prayers are going to be heard. What's the point? Waste of time. And that's not good. We need to realize, and we have that even one person's prayers could actually change the whole world. So, you know, so let not a person think he's not such a great tzaddik. He can still come into the words of Tefillah and davening. But then you have a different kind of a person, and he knows he's a tzaddik. You know, tzaddik, by the way, is not a big head necessarily. No. Did you say big head? No. You make a mistake, Mrs. Huff. Tzaddikim are aware that they are great. So you think Moshe thought he was? You thought Moshe thinks I'm a nothing, I'm a nobody. The great sages in the Talmud, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. You ever heard of him? Did you say he was a great tzaddik? Well, you heard of him, right? So what did he say? He said, if there are two tzaddikim in the world, it's me and my son. If there's one, then it's me. Now what? Arrogant. You know, it's not arrogant. You see, when you make a statement, you know, like I said, some people are confused by the facts. You ever heard of that expression? Don't be confused by the facts. Now, just because a person is honest about themselves doesn't mean they're being arrogant. Yeah. Doesn't mean they're being Donald Trump. Now, you know, he is arrogant because he boasts. To make a statement is not boasting. For Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai to say he can exempt the entire world from judgment because of his righteousness, it's a fact. Rabbi Akiva said of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai,
self-awareness.
Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he pulled him over after a shiur one day.
Yeah.
He says, come over here, mate, because he got a little bit upset at something, that he perceived that another student was getting a bit more glory, honor than him. Rabbi Akiva took him out, see me after class, and he said to him, listen here, it's enough that me and God know how great you are. Now, I've got Rabbi Akiva, who was the great leader of the generation, said that to him. What do you think he's going to do? Oh, I'm nothing, I'm an nobody. I'm really just a, no. You know, that is just stupid.
Yeah.
You know, don't pretend you're an incompetent when you're not.
Yeah.
Know your greatness. Don't brag about it. Don't boast about it. Why do you don't brag and boast? Because, like Moshe Rabbeinu, he had the simple conclusion that if somebody had ever had his amazing qualities, if someone else had been given such amazing qualities as him, he would have achieved greater things. So you don't need to be boastful, but you're saying a fact. Moshe Rabbeinu knew he's speaking to God. What is he saying? I'm just a girl, you know, really not something special.
Yeah.
That's stupid. Well, it's an insult to yourself as well. So, you know, you could be now a person, getting back to what we said, but that was just to try and set right a point. So we don't have that problem anymore. A person who realizes that they're a great person, they may feel, you know what, I don't need the words of Torah and Tefillah because I'm already a refined person. I have refined myself, and I am a very, very special person. Not necessarily, he doesn't need to boast it to anybody else. He may think that. So he's not boasting, but he feels that. And maybe he knows that. And maybe it's true. Maybe he is a really, really refined guy, doesn't do anything wrong, doesn't think of anything wrong, doesn't say anything wrong, doesn't occur to him to do anything wrong. And he's a very, very good boy. So he may think, do I need the antidote? I don't need the antidote. I'm healthy. Like, you don't need a vaccination, if I can use that controversial word. If I'm okay, if I'm healthy, I don't need a vaccination, or I don't need medicine. Yeah, if the medicine, you need medicine if you're ill. A guy who's not so great and righteous, he needs to come into the word, the Torah and Tefillah. But me, I'm okay. Thank you very much. So we say no, because there was one opinion that he was a great, great guy, even in his generation, and he was perfect even by the standards of Avraham Avinu's generation. And even still, we say, Vayera teva, you also come into the table. You also have to permeate yourself with Torah and Tefillah, always going up and up and up, and never be satisfied with your level. Okay, so that is the oh, actually, no. If you mute, you're muting Aaron.
Yeah.
No. Maybe she mute herself because it's. I'm hearing background noises there. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. So that is what I wanted to say about Parshas Noach. Now we're going to move on. Parshas Lech Lecha. Yeah. So I want to ask a famous question. It's a famous question everybody asks. Abraham kept the whole Torah before it was given. Yes? Have you ever heard that expression? The forefathers kept the Torah before it was given. Abraham kept the Torah before it was given, right? Bris Milah? Did he keep it? He didn't keep. He waited.
Yeah.
Why? Why did he wait? Why didn't he do Bris Milah on his own? He waited for Hashem to do it. He told him after 99 years, he says, right, I'd like to do Bris Milah. Why did he wait? He did know. He kept all of the Torah. He knew about it. Well, he knew about it, but didn't do it. That's the question. He must have known because he was a prophet. So if he kept the whole Torah, how did he keep the whole Torah? I mean, he kept it on his level, at a spiritual level, whatever it was. But he could have. He knew there is a concept of risk because he's a prophet. Why didn't he do it? But the very simple answer is that because the Bnei Noach, yes, the sons of Noah, were not allowed. They're not allowed to harm themselves, not allowed to damage themselves physically. We don't believe the body. Everybody says, women are very big on this reproductive rights. Love that?
Yeah.
Love that. Reproductive rights. You're all right to have an abortion, right? So the point is Judaism says that the body does not belong to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
don't say you have a right to do this. You don't have the right to do it. You have to have a right to preserve your life and to preserve life and any life that is coming into you, through you. Anyway, so yeah, so that's the simple, because it would involve physical harm. You're not even supposed to physically harm yourself at all, right? So therefore, he waited till Hashem told him to do it. And obviously, if Hashem tells you to do it, then okay, Hashem's telling me. So that's an exception. Yes, it's an exception. There's another sort of deeper idea that, what was the bris? What does the circumcision symbolize? It's a kind of a covenant between the Jews and Hashem that extends all the way down to the flesh. Now, what is a covenant? A covenant, but what did they? A covenant was mentioned in Parsha, where you cut the animals in half, right? And you walk between the animals. Yeah, a covenant, a bris, is basically a kind of a pact. Yes, a pact, a contract. Yes, that you want to establish that it's going to create a kind of a long-term relationship. Yeah, even when things, even through the ups and the downs. Yes. Now, any contract or any pact between humans is likely to be of a somewhat temporary nature, because people are people, and when people do certain things wrong, things people do. So you could have a pact, but that pact, if I can make a pun, is impacted by perhaps certain negative behavior from one of the sides. Now, you're bound to the pact, right? But could get perhaps weakened a bit. Might, who knows what might happen, right? Certain things could happen, okay? And it could become severely compromised, right? Or broken altogether, okay? But you see, with Hashem, because that's a pact between humans. When Hashem makes a pact, how long do you think that lasts? Forever. It's an eternal pact. There's not subject to any changes. So that's why Abraham wanted to wait, because he didn't want the pact to be initiated by man, so to speak, because that's, we're limited to our own powers and achievements. But what's the basis of the question? I mean, it is true they were told. I mean, Avram is considered the first Jew.
Yeah.
Yes, because in those days, I always say, when it came to sort of converting, it wasn't it wasn't like a London Beth thing. You know what I mean? There's a whole formal process. After the giving of the Torah, became a whole formal process of becoming part of the Jewish people. But with Avraham Avinu, it was more like if you kind of joined the clan, you join the clan, you join the family, and you follow the idea of circumcision, especially for the man, then you're in, finished. That's it. You're part of the clan. Now, some of these people, like you say, were servants, and they didn't have a choice anyway. You're part of it. I mean, maybe he gave them the opportunity. Would you like to, from now on, we've got a new minhag, a new custom in our family, in our clan. Oh, do you want to guess what it is? We don't give it, and that didn't go down well. Exactly. So a few people saying, "Oh, okay. All right, well, I'm, some of it. I just can't resist. I'm a bit of a Monty Python addict from my old days, in my old previous lifetime. And there was a film, and they had this amazing film where you've got this drill sergeant. One of the guys is a drill sergeant, and he's doing marching, up and down and it's like very, very stereotyped, British screaming, yelling drill sergeant, just doing exercise and marching up and down, right? And then, he asked at one point, he's giving him a hard time. He says, oh, you guys, I want you, nobody, and you're not really working. He says, I suppose you'd like to go and be doing something else. So one guy puts his hand in. He says, well, actually, Sarge, he says, I wouldn't mind going to the pictures. I wouldn't mind. And he screams at him, going to the pictures, And then he says, at the booth, says, all right, off you go. And then everyone's like, wait, off you go. And then somebody else puts up their hand. He says, oh, he wants to go home for have a snack. And first he screams at him. He says, oh, off you go. And then at the end, everybody's gone. Right, and he's all on his own. And he starts marching backwards and forwards. He says, well, it was just such a classic sketch. So, Avraham Avinu, I have the lot of thoughts. He said he invited people if they want. Maybe. We don't actually know. My guess is actually that people did not do it. Most people stayed with him. In fact, it said. No, he did. That's what I'm saying. Before Matan Torah, the fact that you just had that and you were part of the clan meant you were part of Avram. They didn't walk around saying we're Jewish. Do you understand? They didn't walk around saying we're Jewish. We are part of Avram's clan. We're part of Avram's family. We're part of. But it wasn't a formalized thing. It was much more informal. It was only after Matan Torah the whole process was formalized. And even that took centuries, by the way. It wasn't so simple. There were times when the times of Solomon and the kings where people were converting. There were questions about conversions because the Beth Din said that people are only converting because the Jews are at the top of the world and they're not really converting because of sincerity. You know what I'm saying? So they were it's taken a very long time, centuries, millennia, until we got to the point where we have this formal process now, right? So this is why he waited, really, to make sure that pact would be eternal, forever, no end. Yeah, sorry.
No, I just want to. I always thought about because Abraham didn't have the Torah, but he had the Torah.
Yes.
So when people were converting,
no, they were Noahide plus. Well, I would have thought. Well,
I always wonder because.
You're right. The Noahides, they only had 7 commandments. There were 7 commandments, but 6 out of the 7 were negatives, don'ts. Yes, not to worship idols, not to blaspheme, not to kill, not to steal, right? Not to commit adultery. Yeah. Only one was a positive one about having courts and justice. So it wasn't so much what you did as what you didn't do. Ben Noach was some. Yes.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. As far as a Ben Noach is concerned, it's not so much about what you do as much what you don't do.
Yeah.
Yes. You just behave like a mensch by not acting, doing silly things like killing people and stealing and Okay. So but Avram, I guess, was that plus circumcision, and that's a serious plus. That's not keeping kosher, Shabbat. Well, perhaps all these things were also a part of it, but perhaps in a much more informal way. Did they keep Shabbat? Did he make Kiddush Friday night? No, he didn't make Kiddush Friday night. Did he somehow rest every 7th day? Maybe he did. Yeah. Did they eat certain animals, not other animals, because they knew that spiritually there was only these domesticated animals should you actually eat, and not wild animals. You know what I'm saying? But all these things were as a matter of insight, and people would follow the minhag. You know what minhag? The minhag of the mishpacha, of the custom of Avram's family. But this wasn't just a custom. This is make or break. Either you do this or you're out, finished. You know what I mean? So, and this is a pretty big one. Well, this certainly sorts the men out from the boys, doesn't it? I would have thought this would sort out maybe even you smile.
It's more like the Jews than that.
Well, yes, but I dare say, and as the verse testifies, that Avram did circumcise all those people who were part of his mishpacha. Right? Now, did he give those the opportunity to leave? I don't know. We don't really read about it, and it may be, frankly, irrelevant. If he did, he did. And if he didn't, he didn't. But the fact is that whoever he did was obviously from that point on, were all part of his clan, all part of his mishpacha, and all the servants. Okay? Right. Let us now, where are we holding? Oh, gosh. Vayera, this is this week's Parsha. We're right. Here we are at our Parsha. Yeah, up to date. Well, we don't have a lot of time. 94, 95, yes. So we know that Hashem revealed himself on the third day. Well, we know. I mean, this is what it says. That Vayera Hashem revealed himself to Avram on the third day. Rashi brings it actually. If I'm not mistaken. Look, he says, the very first Rashi says, Rabbi Chama Bar Hanina says, Yom Shlish Lemilosa, the third day of his Milah. And Hashem came and Sha'al B'Shloim, he asked that. Okay, now, first you ask the question, how does Rashi know, or how do they know it was the third day? Maybe it was the first day. Maybe it was the second day. Why is it the third day? Right? So first, to order to understand this, I may have mentioned this before. You might remember. Very good. Mrs. O's got very good. Good. Yeah, good. Yes. You're certainly very warm. Yes, it is. But so what? So therefore, you couldn't come on the first day. Couldn't come on the second day. I mean, in other words, if Hashem comes, by the way, remember it says that Hashem is going to come. It's going to cause the refuah. It's going to cause the healing. Just like if a person comes and visits, it gives a bit of a healing. How much more so if Hashem comes? So if Hashem comes, he's going to heal him. So then if he comes on the first day, well, Bob's your uncle. You're sorted. If he comes on the second day, same thing. He's going to heal it completely. But that's part of the problem. What do I mean part of the problem? It says Avram Avinu had a stone, on a healing stone. Anybody looked at the stone, they got healed. Don't ask me how that worked. It wasn't NHS, and it wasn't even private. Okay, it didn't cost them a thing, but anyway. Now, question: why didn't Avram just look at it, get better? Look at the stone. Bob's your uncle, he's better. Amazing question. The answer is, when you do a mitzvah, it's not right to cut corners doing the mitzvah. You don't want to cut corners. This is part of what being Jewish is about. Some people like to cut corners in life. Get away with a discount. A discount is all right. Well, look, it's not just the mitzvah, by the way. It's the warm-up to the mitzvah and the consequences of the mitzvah. You don't need to cut corners. Unless the Torah says there's nothing wrong with cutting the corners, which occasionally is the case. But the fact is that there is a pain associated with bris milah. There is a certain pain involved. Now, you want to avoid that? Bit dodgy. You're cutting corners. You're cutting corners. Don't do that. You don't need to do that. And Avram didn't want to. And Hashem knew that Avram didn't want to do that. So therefore, he didn't look at the stone. And that's why Hashem came to him on the third day. Because on the first and second day, like we said before, he would have taken away the pain, and that would have been it. Hashem would have healed it. Now, to come on the third day, the fact is, although you pointed out that it's more painful, it's quite possible. The fact is that on the third day, the body starts to heal itself properly.
Right.
Maybe that's why it's a bit more painful, because there's an actual healing process going on. Yes, right. So the body's starting to heal itself anyway. Then Hashem came, because he's not sort of interfering. And anyway, in other words, he's had the pain, he's had the challenges. So third day, anyway, it's okay. Here we can give him a bit of a booster. Give him a booster. Another just one little point, just to mention. It says V'sha'al b'shloimei. He asked about his welfare. Sometimes when you go to visit a sick person, you're not really, what's the word? You're not inquiring enough about the person. It's not just about visiting and being there and saying, how are you? Fine. Okay. Next. Let's talk about football. Let's talk about this.
Yes.
But that's okay. Maybe that's part of the problem. That we don't
Yeah.
feel we want that. But maybe that's what we are can help, because everybody knows that sometimes venting
Yes.
is a very big help. When a person can vent, at least, it takes some of the tension off.
Mm.
So a person, you know what? Your job is not to prevent them from, venting. A person who is ill and they're in hospital or whatever, they have good reason to vent. To vent. Now, there are special people who don't. They don't vent. They don't. I'm not complaining. Everything's fine. I mean, it's Hashem. That's pretty rare. Yeah. There's you. Okay, but we're not talking about brisim here. Don't conflate brisim with, although, you know what I'm saying? We don't conflate brisim, pain, with here what we're talking about. There's a pain that there's associated. The important thing is you should find out. I mean, look, I remember the Rebbe always used to, when some people had problems, okay, write into the Rebbe. The Rebbe would always call them and say, I want a daily report on how the person is.
Wow. Yeah.
And I always said,
Yeah.
why would the Rebbe want a daily report? And if you see, it says black and white. That really Shor B'Shlomo. Hashem asked how he is. Now, did you think Hashem doesn't know how he is? Like, I wonder how Avram is. Let me go and ask him. Right? No. The fact that he asked, isn't that fascinating? Hashem asked. So he was giving him an opportunity to vent. Now, Avram is not the kind of guy who's going to vent anyway. But the fact is, that's not your call. If he vents or not, that's his problem. Or not problem. That's you. Right? Your job is to ask. And one final point, P.S., just to mention, Vayera Elov Hashem. It says, I love this. It says that Hashem revealed himself to him. To who? Why doesn't it say Avram? On previous occasions, it says that Hashem revealed himself to Avram. Over and over again. Here it doesn't mention Avram. You know why? To tell you that when it comes to Bikkur Choyle, visiting the sick, it doesn't matter if you're a great man or not great man, or an Avram Avinu, or an ordinary simple person. Everybody deserves to get visited if they're not well. Vayera Elov, not Vayera El Avram. Understand? That's what the Rebbe says. That's a beautiful idea. I was saying these, sometimes you get lots of these fundraising things, yes? And they always say, a big Talmud Chochem, with this, that, and the other, he's a big, serious Talmud, he needs this help, that help. And you say, well, and if he wasn't a Talmud Chochem, if he wasn't a scholar, so therefore what, he doesn't deserve help? Do you know what I'm saying? I feel a bit funny about that. Why they always write down this guy he's such a scholar, and he studies, and he's this, and he's that, so please help him out. Do you understand? When it comes to being kind to people, you're kind to people because you're kind to people, not because they're scholarly people or whatever. You've got to be kind to anybody and everybody. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, and we learn that from this very few words in the beginning. Okay, my friends, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you all next time. God willing.